IELTS Part 151. Yeah, it was an attempt to make the reforms in China, but it really didn't work there. Well, of course, in those days, the Chinese were in the clutches of those foreign colonists. Talk about the British, who had taken over China in the first half of the 19th century. There was an Opium War in 1839, and then there was a series of other wars as well. And not only they got the free trade permit that they demanded of China, but also they got the various seaports, including the island of Hong Kong as well, that stayed with them on lease for 150 years. Usually on the terms of British lease system, a lease is granted only for 99 years. But when it came to the deals of Britain and China, this lease was extended to 150 years. That is out of the suggestion, that is out of the protocol, that is out of the statutory system of the British government. The British government and the British statutory constitutions, in fact, do provide a lease, a comprehensive deal, a principal lease only for 99 years, not even for 100 years. But what to say of those negotiators who were dealing on the table with the Chinese? They in fact forced them to have not only the principal lease, but even something more than that. And they went beyond 100 years, which was unconstitutional. In fact, under the constitution provided by the statutes of British Constitution, they not only went beyond 100 years, but they also concluded it to 150 years. It was probably on the desire of those negotiators who were sitting in front of the Chinese on the table. Of course, China had lost the war. China had not only lost one war, but China had lost the series of Opium War. And now they had no ground to negotiate against the British. They had no stronghold for themselves, and they were just on the receiving end, and they received whatever the British had for them. But the tragedy of the day is that all those nations of Europe, all those nations of West who have been playing the card of this progressivism, they waged war against these Eastern nations in the name of opium. Of course, they don't want to have opium for themselves. They would never desire an opium trade for their own country. But this is what they constitutionalized for China. They had been developing opium in India, and it was established there by British East India Company. So there were go-downs for British East India Company in India. Opium was developed there, and then it was traded into China. Of course, they had been getting silk there, they had been getting spice there. So in return, they had to pay them money. But rather than paying them the money, they had a very different barter trade on it. And the barter trade was that we'll get your silk, we'll get your spices, and in return, we'll not make you the payment, we'll give you the opium. And of course, opium is not desirable for the society. It is not desirable for China. It is not desirable for any of the European countries. Since the Chinese had lost the war, and this is what they thrusted upon the Chinese people, this is what they thrusted upon the failures in the war, the defeated nations in the war, and that's the strange thing that they had been doing. And that's what has been happening with these imperialists. That's what has been happening with these colonists. And they didn't really went ahead and colonize China the way they had colonized India. Because in India they were getting all the agricultural benefits, and they had long-term desires to establish themselves in India. But that was not the case in China. So probably this could have been one of the reasons in their minds. They got 6 of the ports on lease, and Hong Kong being one of the islands there that they didn't get on the principal lease of 99 years, but went on for 150 years. And Hong Kong remained with the British colonization from 1839 to 1989. And in 1989, it was declared a part of China, so it has become a part of China. But of course, there are social differences in Hong Kong and the rest of China. There have been westernization in Hong Kong. There have been more progress and development in Hong Kong. And more so, there is a democratic system in Hong Kong as well that has developed the multi-party system as well to run a democratic and republic system. That's not the case under the Mao Zedong China, because the Mao Zedong communist China is altogether a different part of the world, in fact. but they are in a process of accommodating Hong Kong into their own system of politics.